Hello everybody, Corey here. I'm going to go over the daily trades and holdings for Friday, and I think it was 24 May. Sorry about that. I did start to record this last night. I would have done it Friday night, but I think I'd recorded everything but this one. And then last night after I got done from working outside, I started to record this. And then I decided I was too tired after like 3 ETFs and did not finish. So I apologize. And then I've been working outside trying to clean the RV all day. So I'm going to try to get through this video now. And then I'm possibly going to drive my daughter to Tennessee. But all right, so just a reminder, I am not a qualified licensed investment or financial advisor. I'm just here to gather the data, present it to you so you can make your own decisions and form your own opinions. As a reminder, YieldMax ETFs are extremely risky. Please ensure you know what you're investing in before doing so, and that these are income ETFs and not growth ETFs. So we're going to be going back and forth. This is a apologize. This is a Friday video, so as most of you know, you can see I stopped at GDX last night. As most of you know, these videos, Thursday and Friday, are longer than the rest of the week. Friday's the longest because we have lots of trades going on. So please feel free to fast forward to the ETF that you're looking for. Otherwise, you'll just be watching and we'll be going over all 20, or is it 21? I think there's 20, I don't know. I think it's 21 single stock ETFs now. So anyway, we're going to get started and try to get through this as quick as I possibly can. And, that may not be really quick. But anyway, we're going to start with AIYY. You can see that they closed out the short call that expired on Friday with the $28 strike price. They paid 3 cents a piece to close those out, so that's pretty good. And then now we have a new short call for this coming week with a $26.50 strike price for the same quantity of contracts there. So you can see they brought in about 990,000. And let's go back up. Okay, so AIYY. So you can see those new contracts there. And then you can see them here. So the short call strike price of the $26.50, that puts us currently 9% below that strike price at $24.04. Of course, we're extremely below the synthetic strike price. Hopefully that'll come up in the next 2 months. But anyway, so it looks like we have a possibility of an upside of $1.07, assuming that, this stock can actually come up. But I did look it up when I first was recording this, and I don't recall what it was now. But we do have earnings. I think it's this week. I think it was the 29th, but I could be wrong. So I'll try to have my phone or computer nearby next time so I can look that up for you. But I do believe that this was the last holdout for earnings. And I know it was in May. I don't even know if Friday was 24, then that makes next Friday 31. For some reason I was thinking it was the 29th, but that would be Wednesday. So either way, it is going to be this week, because otherwise we're going into June the week after that. Sorry I don't remember the date right off the top of my head here. But anyway, right now, and so if you didn't know, last time earnings happened, this thing shot up to $35 or so, which was actually the demise of this ETF, because it did shoot up to 35. They just so happened to do this synthetic the exact same day that they had earnings, and they did it at like 35. And it might not have been the exact same day. It could have been a day or so after, but I was thinking it was the same day. Or the day after if it was in the after hours. And then, so they did the synthetic 35, and then all it did was come down from there. So then when they closed it out, it cost this ETF, I think $6. It was $5 or $6 for AIYY, and that's why we're down to $11. So please be very careful with this one and watch this. But anyway, just to give you a little history here if you haven't been watching this. So I do say a possible of $1 upside for the short call itself. However, if this does skyrocket again, I don't know if they'll close this out or not, but it will be capped, but you still might get some, it'll be capped for the short cost, but you still might get a little bit for the synthetic position. So just know that. All right, so we're going to go to AMDY. AMDY here. So they closed out the short call that expired on Friday with the 175 strike price. And then, as you can see here, they've moved that to next week with the 172.50 and 170 strike prices, and they've pretty much split the shares between the two of these. You can see they closed at 166.36, so we're cutting a little close, but we'll see that on the next tab. Anyway, you can see they brought in $1.06 million here. If we look at the holdings over here, again, you can see those two split there. So those two those new short calls there, they're 2 and 4% below those. So that first one that we're only 2% below, we're only $3.64 from that strike price. This thing, I think, did make it up to 175 this past week, because I, for a second, thought about closing out of my AMD position. And yeah, I thought too long. I waited and got greedy, and now we're back down to 166. But anyway, and I say that because for anybody out there, not investment advice, but I have a problem with holding positions long, because I watch them go up and then tank right back down. And I honestly don't think over the next year or two that will continue to go up. So I don't want to just keep my money out there. I'm just trying to make a buck here or there based on my personal situation. So let's just put that out there. Anyway, so if we look at these, so we're about evenly split there. So we're only looking about a 19 or so increase, because once we get above that strike price, that one will start going negative and the other one will start going up, and they'll cancel each other out. So that's for the short calls. But of course, for the synthetic itself, it could help bring this stock up, even if it's past the strike price of the first one. So just know that. So let's move on to AMZ. AMZ trades here. Okay, so let's see what they did. Okay, I remember now. This one was a little weird, because they used to do everything separate when people closed out or bought in, and now they combine them. So you can see the first three lines, or the first two are 105. So they brought in, right, people bought in, so there was new money, and they ended up doing 105 additional contracts. So you can see the 105 on the synthetic. On the next line, you see 190. Well, in this case, they didn't combine stuff. I guess there was a mess up here, because you can see the third line, and I know somebody mentioned before about a pointer. This is the closest I have. I did buy a mouse after somebody said that, but the mouse is so fast I can't even work it. I need one that I can slow down, and this one doesn't have that option, or I don't know how to do it if so. But anyway, you see 190 here, and the next line closes out 85. So my assumption is, I guess there was a mess up, because 190 minus 85 equals the 105. So just look at it as we have 105 new contracts. They added to the synthetic position for the 185 there. And so then if we skip on down to the last two lines, we can see the short call that expired on Friday at the 187.50 strike price. It had 3,545 contracts. They closed those out for 1 cent a piece. And then they added to, so all of these are the 185. So they added to the 185, 5,545 contracts. And this one may have had some contracts that they did not utilize the day before. What is this one? AMD? No, AMC. So yeah, we can see, because I highlighted it yellow, so they didn't use all the contracts. So you can see they had 5,600 and something, and they 3,600. So they used the rest of those contracts on Friday, which is what I've historically noticed, and report. But y'all may not have watched that previous video. So anyway, they brought in $542,000 there. Let's look over here at our holdings. So we can see the short call here with the 185 strike price, in which they're currently under by 2% or $4.25. Looks like we have about a 52-cent upside for the short call and possibly some additional for the synthetic should it go over the short call price. All right, so we're going to jump on down to Apley. Apley closed out the two contracts that expired on, or the two positions that expired on Friday with the 190 and 192.50 strike price. So they paid 2 cents for the 192.50, which had the majority of the contracts. So that was great because the one with the 515 contracts, they paid 58 cents a piece. So let's look. 189.98. I guess they wish they'd have known that it was going to close at that, and they would have waited to close these out. So yeah, they actually ended up closing below the strike price, but they closed this out prior to that, which is why they paid the 58 cents to close those out. And then you can see, so that's the same number. Yep, 33. So then they set them up for the exact same strike prices for this next week, 190, 192.50. They did 380. I don't really know why here, but they did 380 at the 190 strike price and 192.50 at the they did 3,000 contracts at the 192.50. So overall they brought in $210,000 there. So let's look at our holdings. So we have our two contracts there. Ooh, yeah. So since they use the exact same strike prices, we are under this strike price by 2 cents for the 380 contracts. So for the 192.50, we are underneath that by 1% or $2.52. If we look over here, possibility of about a 20-cent upside for the short call because there's not a lot there at that first strike price. So let's look at Coney. So Coney here, they did a lot of stuff. So if we look at the first two, okay, so this one was the one, I'll only remember these until I get down to where I didn't start this last night. This is the one where they were over the strike price. So you can see here, coin, they were at $237.65 on close on Friday, which was above all of these strike prices. If you're looking, where's my thing? Sorry. If you're looking here on these red ones where they expired on the 24th, it's above all of those strike prices. So if you look over here for the price per share, they paid $18.95, $11.61, and $4.60 a share for each one of those on each separate line. So overall, they ended up paying $26.8 million to close these out. So to pay for this, what they had to do was close out synthetic positions. I assume it's all of them, yeah. And then they moved the strike price to get some money to pay for these. So you can see the top two lines there, 220, and then we went to the 230. So to close out the 220, the first two lines, they ended up bringing in $30 million. Of course, then to put on the position at the 230, it cost them $7.4 million. But this will help them pay. So what did I say? Let's see. So the synthetics was $22.8 million. And yes, that's 26.8. But then we have our short calls for this next week that we got premium for, in which we brought in $6.5 million. So if we look at all of those trades in total, they brought in $2.64 million, but that's why they have to close some or change those with the strike prices to get the money to pay for those short calls. But our new short calls, we'll just go over them on the holdings. Oh, I did not mean to do that. I apologize. I'm trying to go too quick here. With that said, I see my weekly taps there. I did do the weekly data for this as well. I just have to do the video. And like I said, I've had this since Friday night. I just haven't had time to do with the video with my daughter here and then us working in the garden. This is taking a minute to load. And then, of course, then working on the RV today in the storm, trying to get the RV cleaned. So there we go. Okay, so Coney, we went too fast. I need to slow down. So we can see here our two short calls at the 250 and 252.50 strike prices. We are 5% and 6% below those strike prices. it looks like your shares are basically split, so it looks like we possibly have a 50-cent increase here for these, for the short calls itself. You know what? I don't know where I was. I paused it because my daughter. Let's see. It's not a bad thing. I think I was saying we have a 50-cent upside for the short calls. And of course, we can still go up some more based on the synthetic value and how these roll, right? So let's move on to Dizzo. So Dizzo trades, they closed out the 2 short calls that expired on Friday with 104 and 105 strike price. They paid 2 cents a piece to close those out. So then you can see all the numbers here. They brought in $70,000. We're going to go to the holdings. We can see the new ones over here. So we can see the new short call there, the 1,705 contracts. They will expire next Friday with a 103 strike price. So we're 1% below that, or $1.24. All right. Sorry, I paused again. Okay. So I think I had just stated that we were $1.24. I think I misstated, but $1.24 below that strike price. If we look over to the right-hand side, it looks like we have about a 22-cent possible increase here for Dizzo. Of course, if we keep going up, we'll have definitely some increase for that synthetic position there. So, my cats are fighting. Let's move on to Phoebe here. They closed out the 3 short calls that they have for Friday. They had strike prices of $482.50, $472.50, and $485. It looks like they moved them all to the $485 strike price for next week. And then you can see the dollar amounts if you want to see those over there. I will say Meta closed at $478.22. So they were over the $472.50 at the end of the day. So that's why they paid $6 a share there to close those out. And I mean a share, not contract. I know some of you may or may not know that. And I take that for granted sometimes, thinking that everybody knows what I'm talking about. So I apologize. But anyway, so we have the short call for next Friday, 485 strike price, the only one we have. And we're 1% below that. So sorry for that. My cats don't know how to get along sometimes. It looks like we're 1% below the strike price, or I don't know, that's $6.78 maybe. But anyway, looks like we have maybe 28-cent upside for the short calls. Doesn't seem like much, but 28 cents. Okay, so let's move on. Let's get to GDXY. So they had 3 short calls. I think this last week is their first week. They had 3 short calls that expired on Friday. They closed at $35.26, and the 3 straight prices they had were $35.50, $35, and $37. So they were able to close all of those at 1 cent because GDX is going down. And I need to watch. Now that I say that, I need to watch. If any of y'all watched this the last time, I mentioned something about asking Mike about doing a video, and he did a video. So I did ask him to. Nobody else had asked him, so I asked him because I want to know, because I'm interested. And he did a video for me, and I appreciate it, and I do need to go check that video out. I've just been very busy this weekend. So anyway, let's look here. We have 2, let's see, we went over all those 1 cent, and then we'll just cover these on the holdings. No sense in covering them twice. So we have GDX here. So we have the 2 new short calls here. You can see we have them split up between 75 and 1,000 contracts for some reason. And then that's the premium they received. But the short calls expire next Friday. We have $35.50 and $36 strike price. We're only below those by 1% and 2%. And the $35.50, we're only below by 24 cents. So the 36 one, we're underneath that by 74 cents. I guess they don't expect it to move too much. And if they're anything like what I was thinking yesterday, they're definitely not thinking it's going to go up. But I still need to watch Mike's video. And in case you're wondering, I'm talking about Mike, the tactical stock scalper. I have to say that really slow because I will mess it up. So I apologize. But anyway, so we can look here, these 75 contracts, no upside. So we'll just look at the 1,000 contracts. We're looking about 35-cent increase for the short calls here, but we are way below our synthetic strike price. So maybe possibility, go watch, go watch Mike's video. I'm not going to say be careful here. I don't know if this one's going to keep going down or not since I haven't watched Mike's video, but make sure you do that. All right, let's look at GUI. So GUI here, we have a closed, I'm sorry, the short call that expired on Friday, that was closed 177.50. It looks like for next week they put 177.50 again. Sorry about that. They closed them out for 4 cents a share. They brought in $210,000 on Friday. So here we see that new short call that we have. We are currently under that by 1% because we're just shy, 1 penny shy of 175. So we're under at $2.51. Looks like GUI could come up 26 cents for the short call itself. Let's go to JPMO. We had 2 short calls that expired on Friday with strike price of 200 and 202.50. They paid 2 cents to close the 202.50 out. But JPM actually closed up. That's surprising. So they closed at $200.71. So when they were above that strike price of the 200, they ended up paying 29 cents to close those out. So they brought in $69,000. So JPMO, if we look here at our holdings, we have 2 short calls that expire next week now with the 200 and 202.50 strike price. We are above the 200 strike price by 71 cents for the 165 contracts, and then we have the 202.50 strike price with 750 contracts, so about 10 or so cent upside there for the short calls. And let's go, let's look like we may not have any trades from Ernie. Let's check. No, because we did those the day before. So let's look at Murney here, or this one is the one that took off, so it might have been the day before that when they closed these out. But anyway, they had the short call that expires next Friday with the 180.50 strike price, and we are below that by 10%. Looks like we have about a $2.19 upside for Murney, should Moderna go up. So now we will look at Microsoft. Microsoft here, they closed out. Let's go to the bottom to the synthetics. Okay, so Microsoft closed at 430.16. Their short call, I said bottom to the synthetic, I meant bottom to the short calls. The short call that expired Friday here, with a 425 strike price, we closed above that $5 and some cents, so they ended up paying actually $5.21 to close this, which cost $734,000 to close this. They did do the short call for this next week at the 432.50. They only brought in $310,000, so they still need $400,000 to pay for that. So now we go back up to the synthetic positions, looking for the money to cover this. We had the $420 synthetic positions, which were closed out and moved to the 430 synthetic 430 strike price. So you can see all the dollar amounts over here if you want to see those individually. But for the synthetic positions, they ended up getting almost 1.4 million for those. So overall, they brought in $964,000. So here we can see the short call that will expire next Friday at 432.50. We're below that 1% or $2.34 because Microsoft closed at 430.16. It looks like we only have about a 12-cent upside for the short call for MSFO. If we go down to Misty, they had 1 short call that expired Friday at an 18.30 strike price. We were way below that, unfortunately. But anyway, they still paid, I don't know why, they still paid 9 cents a share to close these out, though. Then they have a new strike price for next week at 1,720. I don't know. That seems pretty close to me. But anyway, yeah, they brought in a lot of money for it, though. They brought in almost $2.6 million in total. So if we look at the holdings here for Misty, we can see we have two short calls for next week. We have a 1,720 strike price, which we're 2% below now, and it has 885 contracts. Then we also have a 1,740 strike price with 10 contracts. Looks like we have a possibility of 70 cents for upside for these short calls. And then we'll go to Nefli. So Nefli, I feel like a broken record today. Nefli closed at 646.75. So they had a strike price of 630, and they had a strike price of 655. So they were $16.75 above the one strike price at close, but during the day when they closed this out, they paid $20.76 to close it out. The one at 655, they paid 42 cents to close out. So that cost them $1.66 million to close out the short calls, and they only got premium for the next week of $303,000. So they moved the strike price for their synthetics from $615 to $650, and they received, come on, sorry, it's not wanting to work properly, $3.16 million for closing out the synthetic they had, and then it cost them almost $427 million to thousand. Apologize, 427,000 to for their new positions. So overall, for the synthetics, they brought in 2.7 million. So they ended up bringing in total for all trades $1.48 million there. So if we go over and look at the holdings here, we can see the short call with the 662.50 strike price, and we're currently underneath that by 2%. It looks like we have a possibility of 42 cent upside for the short call for Nefli. So if we go on down to NVIDIA, they added, so we have 190 contracts here, which is funny because we had 190 above or something else. Actually, we had 185 and 190. So that's interesting. I wonder if they've just had a mix-up. But anyway, so NVIDIA here, they added to the synthetic and short call positions here. So they added 192 contracts to both of these. So we actually could do that from the holdings. So you can see here, 190 contracts there that they added. And then so for the short calls for next week, they have 1,080 strike price and a 1,085 strike price now. So we're almost split between those two. We're only below those by 1% and 2%. Looks like possible upside of about 21 cents for the short calls. And then if we go to OARC, we have OARC here. They closed out the short call that expired on Friday with a $46 strike price for 2 cents a piece. And this week's short call is only $45. Overall, the trades, they brought in $575,000. So you can see here, we're underneath that short call by 1%, which is only 62 cents there. We have about a 16 cent upside possible for OARC for the short calls. So PayPay here, let's see. We did not have any that closed, no close. Okay, so we'll come back for Tesla. All right, so PayPay here, they just added 1,515 contracts to the short call, which is also, I believe, the contracts they did not use from the day prior. So the short call is a $63 strike price for over 3,000 contracts. They're only below that by 2% or $1.36. Looks like a possibility of upside of 39 cents for PayPay for the short call. And then we go on to SQE. They added 2,165 contracts to the short call, which is also, again, one contracts they didn't use from the day prior. And they have a $69 strike price, in which we're currently underneath by 4%. Looks like we have about a 70 cent possible upside for the short calls for SQE. So oh, I did it again. I'm sorry. So we're going to move on to Tesla. So they would have closed out the short calls that expired on Friday. Sorry about that. Okay, so they had two short calls that expired Friday with 180 and 185 strike price. We actually closed at 179.24. So let's say, yeah, so for the 180 strike price, they paid 37 cents a share to close those out, and then 3 cents for the other one there. So next week's strike prices, they have 185 and 187.50, with the majority being at 185. Overall, they ended up bringing in almost $5.6 million here. So you can see those two new short calls there. The 185 were under by 3%. The 187.50 were under by 4%. Looks like we have a possibility of upside of about 39 cents for the short calls. And let's look at Zomo. I'm just realizing we're almost done. Thank goodness. Yay. All right. So we have the closed short calls that were going to expire on Friday for Zomo here, 120 and 119. They paid 1 cent to close those out per share. And then they have, so they brought in almost 169,000 there for those. And let's just go over to the holdings. So we have the holdings here. You can see the new short call there for the 1,985 contracts. They have strike price of $114. We're underneath that by 1%, or 58 cents. All right, so we have the 114 strike price for the short call, which is only gives us about 9 cents upside possible for Zomo. But that's just for the short call. So if they go above that, could be more for the synthetic there. Or even if they don't go above it, there still could be some for the synthetic there. Anyway, so let's look. I don't know if we had any for Crash. Yes, we do. So they closed out the short put that expired Friday with the 172.50, and for next week they just have 172.50. Anyways, it cost them 4 cents to close those out, and then they did have 30 contracts that they didn't use previously. So you can see here that we went from 163 to 193, and that would be why. One thing I don't have here, which I didn't realize, is I don't have the total trades, and I can't add this here. So let me go down, because I guess I just didn't add it. Copy, put it here, because if I don't do it now, I'll forget. Okay, so we're good there. All right, so they closed out the synthetic position, 172.50. Okay, 4 cents. So we did that. Sorry. All right, so let's go to our holdings here. We have our short put that will expire next Friday at the 172.50, and we're currently 4% above that strike price. I forget I don't have, obviously, possible upside on this one, right? All right. So let's just end that there. I know I have YMAG and YMAX below, or prices and the other ones, but I have those on the daily roundup that I already cover. I will do the weekly roundup, which will have the where we stand as far as estimate reviews and everything. We will go over that. I just have to do it in a separate video, but I do have that here and ready to go. I am going to go ahead and drive my daughter to Tennessee and come back, so that's probably going to take me 7 or 8 hours to do. So I'm definitely not getting this video out tonight. it will be out tomorrow, unfortunately, and I do apologize for that. Yeah, unless, I don't know, something happens and I just decide to go ahead and knock it out. We'll see. Let me think about it for a few minutes. But anyway, I will talk with y'all later. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.